This is the Hofstra Radio Alumni Audio Yearbook. Today is September 12th, 2024. Please tell us your name and the years you were at Hofstra Radio.
Well, my name there was Allison Skornick. I am now Allison Hazlett Rose, hyphenated last name. I was at Radio Hofstra University. Well, I was at the university from 89 to 93 as an undergrad. And I guess I got involved with the radio station 91 ish,
Okay.
probably.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll go with round numbers at this point. I
Yeah.
remember those days, and we'll piece together some memories as we go along. Thank you so much for doing this. It's nice to hear you.
Thank you for having me.
Do you remember any of the shows or programs that you worked on?
So, I, as I mentioned earlier, I like to consider myself radio adjacent
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing TV and radio production. So I was also doing TV stuff. And I, I was very afraid, I think, to be on the air. So I would hang out with everybody, in the basement office. But only time I was on air was senior year, radio production two or advanced radio production or whatever we called it. I should have looked at my transcript before we started this. And it was a requirement that you had to do a show. So I did one of the classical music shows for a semester
Okay.
because I was required to, not because I really wanted to. Isn't that terrible?
Well, we all need a little nudge sometimes, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's an academic nudge, and sometimes otherwise. So, were you announcing? Were you doing the board? Were you doing both?
I was doing both. Because classical songs go on for Lord knows how long. So
Yeah.
I didn't have to do too many of them in a little slot that I had. But in between, I would talk about what the song was and who it was by or whatever, and then I would just start up the next song. So it's all very vague. I remember being in the studio while other people, I think even you, were on the radio, and I was just in the background hanging out.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. There certainly were times where there'd be a lot of us about at all hours of all kinds of days. So, um,
Yes.
I love that you use the phrase radio adjacent, and I've talked to so many people who really got so deep into the radio station at different times, and changed their majors and just really got super involved. But I love hearing from people who were around and sort of observing all of us maniacs doing the crazy things that we were doing. So I guess, was it the academic requirement that brought you to the station, or what else was going on that brought you over?
No, I think it was mostly the academic requirement. I don't know what in my brain said I wanted to do TV and radio broadcasting. I knew when I went to Hofstra that I wanted to focus on TV and I wanted to be behind the scenes, but somehow I ended up with the radio portion too. And that's really kind of what brought me there. But I, I guess I'm kind of that weirdo kind of person too. And I'm like, okay, well, these are kind of my people, even though I'm still doing the TV part of it. And so I would hang out.
I'd like to think that we were a welcoming group, that we made people feel like, hey, you can hang out and get involved, or just hang out. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. I don't know what it's like today or even after we left, but our group was, yeah, very friendly, very fun. We were a fun group.
I like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for people who are at the radio station in Hofstra after we were, there's been a lot more connection between the TV facilities and the radio facilities, just for the sake of the radio station moving to what I
Mhm.
still call the new facility, which was being built while we were there. It's 30 years old, but to me, it's still the
Right.
new place. So everybody's in a building together, and there's a lot more school of communications, and everybody should be involved in all the things. But for those of us who were there late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, I feel like there was a definite, I'm a TV person, I'm a radio person, or I'm a film or a print person. That it was very walled off, if not by design, just by clicks. Does that seem fair?
You cannot see me because we're on radio, but I'm shaking my head. Yes, absolutely. I don't know how I ended up in both TV and radio, but yeah, there not so much a rivalry, but it, yeah, it was just completely different and separate. 100%. I agree with that. And I always say, sure, I graduated and then they built this nice new building and facility.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think it's great that everybody's all together and it is a school of communication, but I think everybody had their little niche, even though we were all communications majors. And actually, even some of us weren't communications majors. But yeah, there were the radio people and there were the TV people. And I don't even remember the print people, I'm sorry to say. And or film, really.
Yeah, I was a print major, but I didn't spend a lot of time at the Chronicle. I took a lot of classes,
Yeah.
mostly at Dempster and I think Breslin Hall and stuff like that. But yeah, it just all felt like everybody was doing something different. And I guess one of the things that I always get at is someone who spent a lot of time at the radio station, the facilities in the basement of Memorial Hall were somewhat antiquated or less than what by comparison to what was happening at TV. It felt like to me the TV stuff was all new and fancy and all this great equipment, and we were kind of scrounging by at the radio station. What does that seem
Uh,
right?
Absolutely. I have two comments that I always say when I was so in the many jobs I've had, I've always been kind of adjacent to other departments that I worked with, and so we were either the island of misfit toys
Hmm.
or we were the bastard redhead stepchildren. So yes, the radio station, there was definitely a misproportion or unproportional level of funds that were going various places, and the radio station was, I mean, just the fact we were in the basement.
Yeah. Yeah, I love to ask people like when they first got to the station, if you could recreate in your mind, what was it like walking into the basement of Memorial Hall? What did it look like? What did it smell like? What was happening down there under Bits and Bytes?
I honestly, I don't remember the first. Actually, no. And thinking about it now, it was like this dark hallway,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you recreate it, if you're thinking about film, it was like this long dark hallway and just an open doorway at the end, and a mismatched furniture
Yeah.
everywhere, desks and everything, and yeah, just these little windows, because it was the basement. And smells I don't necessarily remember, but I just remember the first day I was like, okay, I get this, but always just going down there with like our food from Bits and Bites. So
Exactly. Exactly. Were there other people from like the TV track that were taking these classes with you that you kind of knew, or did you just kind of walk into the station like, "Hi, I'm here. I have to do this for a class."
I think it was like, hi, I'm here. I have to do this for a class. I don't
Hmm.
remember. Like they were definitely separate groups. And I remember we had like our holiday party whatever thing, or maybe it was the end of the year thing. I certainly remember one senior year when I was graduating, and like it was radio station people, and we just went somewhere and had music and dancing and food and everything. And then just the TV portion of it was bigger.
Yeah.
That's one thing I remember. And they were just, I was like, had two separate lives in a sense. And then I had friends who weren't majors in either. You know how people tend to gravitate towards the people that they're in classes with and they become friends and whatever. But my core group of friends I met freshman year in the dorms, and we just kind of like they were always my friends, and they
Mm.
weren't TV or radio major. They weren't communications majors at all.
So that was mostly your social group, and then the TV radio stuff that was all extra on top of that.
But I did social stuff with, well, more the radio than the TV. I
Yeah.
think that because TV was bigger and I feel like there were a little more clicks going on there.
Uh huh.
Um, the radio was more social as well. Yes, I had my friends that were social, but yes, I also had the radio people, I think, that I was social with more so than the television people.
Okay. Okay. So when you made the brave step to go down that long, dark hallway into that ominous office, the bullpen with the mismatched furniture and
Right.
just a little bit of sunlight coming in, did you get a did you have a training class? Was there anybody who showed you kind of how to be on the air and get your FCC license? Do you remember anything about getting trained?
I had the first radio class, my first radio class, but I don't ever remember being trained, which is probably terrible to say. And I am willing to bet, oddly enough, I may still have my license somewhere buried in a box.
Nice.
Why, I don't know, but I think I
Yeah,
still do.
you might need it. It's good to have.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
No, I don't think
anyway,
anybody needs them anymore. I meant to ask this before the
yeah.
radio classes. Did you take was it Com 21? There was basic radio production.
Hmm.
Was that
How do
what's
you remember all these things? Like, I don't even remember the names of some of these buildings and
I've
things.
literally done 250 of
Oh,
these.
yeah, that's true. There you go.
So that's part of it. But also like, I there were very specific things that just stuck with me. But Com
Yeah.
21 probably would have been Sue Zizza teaching that.
Yes. Yeah.
And the upper level production classes, for a time they were Jeff Krause, but Jeff took ill
Yeah.
about that time. So I don't know, was it Sue teaching it or what? Do you
It
remember?
was the upper level was Sue,
Yeah.
because Jeff, I think, had passed away at that point already.
Okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure where on the timeline things were,
I
but
had I had met Jeff, and I took a class with him. I don't know what class it was, honestly. I don't remember.
mm,
Um but I think he was gone by the time I took the advanced level radio production.
yeah. He also taught like a history of radio class,
Maybe
and as a
that's what I
TV
took with him.
production major, you would probably would have been part of that. And
Yeah.
I know there were some writing classes and things that he did. Do you have any memories of Jeff?
His beard.
Yeah.
I remember us being in like a basement in classroom, and there had to be at least 30 of us, if not more, packed into this basement with him teaching.
Yeah.
Does
That
that
sounds
sound
right.
familiar at all?
Oh yeah. Well the multi-track class would have been in the basement, and
Well, yeah.
everybody would have piled into the announcing room or one of those things. So um
No, but this was an actual classroom with desks, and he had a desk at the front of the room. I don't remember the class, but yeah, we were like sardines in there. We were packed in there. So I'm like thinking about it now and what I technically do for a living now. I'm like, how did the fire marshal ever allow that?
that's I'm trying to remember if there was a classroom in the basement of Memorial, because there was a long hallway with some storage, and I feel
Yeah,
like at one end there might have been a classroom that they would have piled us all into. But one of the famous stories is about when it was WVHC, it was under the Little Theater, which was on the other side of over
yeah,
by California Avenue, and that
yeah.
was one door in to a basement, and it was all kinds of fire hazard. This would have been in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and what Jeff got away with was kind of remarkable, because it was a death trap, and thankfully nothing bad ever happened. So I think it was just sort of the way of the station that there's always some element of danger to it, but somehow we got out of it. I think it's just a radio thing. We have to persist with that.
You know what? I think it's good training if you want to go into radio.
Amen.
Do
Amen.
what you can without.
So getting back to being on the air and doing classical, most
Mhm.
people don't remember their exact first time on the air, but do you remember? You said you were scared of
Oh,
being on the air. Like, were you scared of messing up? Were you scared of the equipment? What were you thinking?
messing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get that today. I know we talked about off the air that I sometimes do interviews, and actually, I even did it today. I called a director by the wrong name,
Ooh.
and it was being recorded. And so, the first time that happened to me, it was an actress. I won't tell you who it was, but I called her by the wrong name, and I was devastated. And I I don't think I'll ever forget it. I mean, today when I did it, because you have an experience once and you get on with it, and I today was just kind of like, oh, all right, well, let's try that again, shall we?
Hmm.
Like I rolled with it. But I remember I think it was like the one, maybe once or twice, I wowed the record,
Ooh.
and I remember that vividly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. And oftentimes you would get a phone call from the office saying, "Don't do that again." That's a
Well,
terrible feeling.
I didn't get a phone call, but I was thinking, oh God, they're all hearing this, and they were like, they probably just heard the wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
today, people don't even know what a wow is.
Right, right.
So,
And could you explain the wow for those who maybe don't know?
so back when we actually used records, you would you'd put it on the track, and then you would back it up so it would be before it actually the song actually began. And if you didn't back it up far enough, when you hit the the button and was playing, it would and it would be the music already going, and it sounded like a wow. And I did that with classical music.
Hmm. So yeah, the fear was always that you would get a call from the office, especially when Jeff was around, and
Oof.
in that voice, he would basically scare the bejesus out of you. And once in a while, we get a call from President Stewart's office or someone at the
Really?
administration building, and as if something technically went wrong, or a CD was skipping, or a record was skipping,
Uh,
there was a time where Jeff would intercept those calls, but sometimes they come directly in. So although the classics was somewhat low stakes for a lot of us, it was also, yeah,
Yeah.
there are some people listening and they are important, and don't mess it up. But if that's the
Yeah.
worst thing that ever happened, that's not too bad.
Again, I tried to avoid it as much as I could. And in my senior year, I could not avoid it because it was part of my requirement. And I do remember Jeff just being an intimidating figure,
Yeah.
very intimidating. So I don't know how I ever really survived because I wasn't as comfortable as I am now doing these kinds of things. But experiences, you can't you can't take away from experience. And now I'm older and wiser. But yeah, when I was there, I don't know what I thought I had any right being a TV and radio production major, but I did.
What
And then I didn't
was it
use it.
just that media interested you, or you weren't sure what else to do? How'd you wind up in that?
I love the behind the scenes stuff, the back,
Uh,
like stage managing, or working all the stuff behind the scenes. I really enjoyed that. And I don't know why I did radio, because it was really more of television/film. But then when I graduated, I was like, I really want job security, and you typically don't have that in
no.
media. So I ended up not going into the field, and in a roundabout sort of way, I've come back into it a little bit. But I'm sure if I walked into a radio station today, it would be completely different than except maybe the occasional fader,
Yeah.
because everything's computer now. There's no records or CDs. Completely different.
I think if you've got at least some basic chops, you can walk in and someone shows you this is this source and that. I think it's relative to come back, and that's a hypothetical I like to ask people. If you were on Long Island and someone from the radio station said, "Hey, can you fill in for a couple of hours? Don't worry about the technical part. We just need a host." Would you do it?
I could absolutely do it.
Oh,
With the
okay.
experience I've had today in recent years, yes, I could absolutely do it and be comfortable doing it, which is something I was not comfortable with when I was 20, 21 years old. And that's a
Yeah.
confidence thing.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we grow up and grow into it. So if you were going to do this hypothetical show, I'm assuming you wouldn't spin more classics. If you had your choice of what kind of show you would do, what would you do?
I would, well, I like top 40. I like, I'm not really alternative. I'm a big Billy Joel fan.
Uh
So
huh.
if we had a Billy Joel hour, I would be more than happy to do that. But because I indirectly deal with movies, I would want to do like movie music, like a
Uh-huh.
themed movie music show kind of thing.
Okay. All right. That sounds
A
fun.
little do little facts in between each song and then say this song is from, and there's times when songs are from more than one movie, so you could talk about various movies at one time. So
Uh,
it'd be kind of cool, a little educational.
Okay. That sounds fun. We'll keep that
Yeah,
in the back of mind if anybody needs you and you get a phone call one day. You'll
there
have a
you go.
playlist ready. Uh, going back to the days when we were at the radio station, you mentioned that there were times you'd be in the studio or hanging around or in the office. Do you remember some of the names or people of people who were around?
I remember John Baker.
Yeah.
Why I remember? Well, John and I are kind of Facebook friends too, so I do remember him because we I see him occasionally on Facebook talking about things. But um, and I remember you. And now when you mentioned Jen Murphy, I remember her. If I A lot of it I don't, which is sad. I don't remember a lot from high school. I don't remember a lot from college, and I was not a druggie, so it's not like I fried my brain. I think I forget a lot in my past. I don't know.
But I guess if you don't have particular names, I guess there's to use a phrase of today, sort of. I'm sorry to do this, but like, do you remember like sort of a fun vibe? Do you remember that like people were having a good time and just it was a nice place to be?
Yeah, always. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. If I didn't feel comfortable in a place, again, it's a confidence thing. I wouldn't have necessarily gone back. But yeah, I remember just getting my lunch and going downstairs and sitting, and whoever was around, or even if like one or two people were around because everybody was out doing something, you could just sit there and eat at any one of the desks pretty much. Um, but yeah. Oh, and um, oh, he's going to kill me. Scott Smallove.
Sure.
I remember him being down there as well, and his friend Bill, and I don't remember Bill's last name.
Bill Kaplan.
Bill, yes, yeah. So I remember them.
Yeah, yeah, we were all down there and up to various things at the time. But we certainly all a lot of us made it our second home, and
Yeah,
in some cases probably our first home. We spent a lot of time there. So
and I
um,
see
yeah,
I see Dave on Facebook all the time too. Dave,
Dave Koenig.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and we chit chat occasionally. Like I'll message him or something. Like when he did that commercial during the Super Bowl, I was like, oh my god, I know
wasn't
him.
that exciting? Yeah, every once in a while he'll pop up, and we just watched Mrs. Maisel, and he pops up in the first season. It's like Dave. I
Was
mean,
he
I knew it.
really?
Yeah, he's an
I
elevator
didn't know.
operator. Yeah, he's done some
Oh,
amazing stuff. He's
I
really
love
great,
that. I
and
love that. My hope is one day that he gets to do a movie and come down to Miami area to do a press junket, and I happen to be part of the press junket. That would be awesome because I'd be like, Dave.
all right. We'll put the challenge out there, Kana. You've heard
Yeah.
it now. Now get it done.
Yeah,
That would be that would be a lot of fun.
it would.
Would you ever say, in your brief experience at Hofstra Radio, did you ever feel comfortable on the air, like you knew what you were doing, or were you always afraid of what was happening?
Um, I got comfortable, and I enjoyed announcing more than actually the technology and playing the records and everything.
Right.
So, um, was I ever really comfortable though? I don't think at that point in my life I was. I think I'd be much more comfortable now than I ever was in the past. But yeah, I mean, I got used to talking about whatever song it was. And God knows, I hope there's no recordings anywhere from those things from 30 years ago because God knows how much I probably butchered composers' names and titles of whatever classical music piece was playing
I'm
that I was
sure
introducing.
I'm sure we would have let you know if it was too egregious,
It
but
was really bad.
so on the other hand, would it be fair to say that you felt comfortable socially right away at the station?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any if the subject of Hofstra radio ever comes up, or college radio, or your career in radio, is there a story that sticks out in your mind? Is there something that you would always tell and be like, oh, I did this thing?
Hmm. I don't think so, actually. I think the things I've done more recently are the things that stick out more. But I mean, I loved my time there, and I love Hofstra. I am very happy to talk anything Hofstra and my time there and everything else. It was just the right fit for me.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I like I said, I don't remember a lot of things, but I remember bits and pieces and the bad stuff like wowing on the radio.
That's what we're there for, to provide trauma for your later years. That's
Thank you. Thank
that
you so much.
that's exactly it. So if you don't mind, I mean, we talked a little bit off air about this, but some of the stuff that you're doing, and you've alluded to this, but you're doing some radio now as a professional. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Not at all. Before I met my husband, he started an entertainment website called Flick Direct. So if anybody wants to check it out, please do. And if you want to check out our YouTube channel, you can actually see me in all my glory interviewing celebrities. But yeah, so I'm a film critic part time. And so I get to go to a lot of advanced screenings and get movies and even TV shows in advance so that I can write reviews, which you can find on Flick Direct and Rotten Tomatoes and all of those good places. I am in 3 film critics societies. I never thought this would be my life. And every Friday morning for 10 minutes, I and another film critic that I know are on the Ozarks This Morning with Guy Wayman. Um, and I can't even think of the call sign for it.
I'll cut
So
that part out, but
thank you. No, and yeah, we talk about the box office. We talk about what movies are coming out, and we always try and get a classic pick of the week. That a lot of times they laugh at me because I'm like, oh, who's having a birthday today? Let me look and see, and I'll pick one of their movies as a classic pick. But
cool.
yeah, I do, like I said, I do more now with my communications degree than I did for many, many years. I went back to school at Hofstra and got a master's degree in education in school counseling. And now my full-time job is not radio, radio or TV production, but my part-time side hustle is very much so.
So the lessons didn't pay off right away, but eventually it all kind of comes back.
Yeah, in a way, yes.
That's very cool.
I will
Um,
say this because we have, video equipment sometimes when we have to do press events and things like that. And yes, I still know how to um, curl up the wires, and I know
mhm.
where things get plugged in. So the technical aspect I know a little bit of, but not nearly as much. And again, technology has changed so much in 30 years in this realm that I would need a few lessons to get really back into it.
Right, right. Do you have any advice if you could time travel and go back and meet yourself at 18 years old? Is there any advice you would give yourself?
Yeah, be more confident.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Get more on air experience, whether it be television or radio or for those people doing film or whatever. The more experiences that you have and the more mistakes you make, the more comfortable you get with, okay, I screwed up, but let's move on from that. And then you just get really good at it. Not screwing up, but
Yeah.
but just your job. Um, so yeah, I would have gotten on the radio probably earlier than I did. I would have done a lot of things differently, but again, I wasn't all that confident when I was younger. Not that I'm completely confident now, but I'm older and wiser and I've made mistakes and I've learned from them. And so I am more confident than I ever was when I was at Hofstra.
I think that's good advice for anybody at any age. Is just have a little bit
Yeah.
more faith in yourself and doing that.
If you make a mistake, you can either crumble or you can learn from it. And I have certainly learned from all those mistakes, and I try not to ever make them again, certainly. But like I told you off the air, when I called an actress by the wrong name, I was like
Mhm.
so devastated. And there were other people in the room with her, and they all kind of laughed. And I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? And the second time I did something like that, I was like, okay, let's just move on. I screwed that up. Hey,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Let's try again, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, realizing that it's not the end of the world, and you
Yes.
can recover, and at least hopefully that, I guess there's a few things you can't walk away from, but wowing your record or calling someone the wrong name, that's small stuff. We can deal
Yeah.
with that. But when you're
Yeah.
19 and unsure, it seems like a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So,
And in anything in life, learn some improvisational skills,
mm,
because being able to think off the top of your dome, especially in a media related area, is so important and so valuable.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I usually ask this question geared towards the radio station, but because so much of your uh, time at Hofstra was with TV and doing other things, I'll ask it this way. So, when you first arrived at Hofstra University, what did you think that place would what were you hoping it would be for you, and what did it become?
Ooh, wow, that's a great question. So what I my experience was a little different from some other people, because I never went to like a summer orientation where everybody met other people and they picked out their classes. Um, because I had a brother who was ill at the time and my parents were dealing with him, I never went to summer orientation. I picked out my classes the week before classes started. I didn't have any communications classes because I didn't know that you needed those little blue cards and things,
Mm,
and you had to sign up well in advance. And so those are certainly kind of things that I learned along the way. But what did I think I was? I thought I was just kind of I was going to come out being like this person who was going to go and work in movie sets and TV and behind the scenes and even some radio, and um I left there thinking I learned a lot, but I don't think I can do this because I want job security and I want health benefits on a
mm-hmm,
regular
mm-hmm.
basis. So I ultimately went back to school at Hofstra and got a master's degree in something different. And I worked for Hofstra for a little while as an admissions counselor. And I learned a lot more, which a lot of people will say I learned a lot more in the real world after college than I think I did in college. College was a great experience. It was fun. It was a growing up period, but I think I learned a lot after college.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. We're taking all kinds of different lessons from places and working it
Mhm.
together. But it's great that you went back to school and found something that was stable and that you enjoyed. I love to hear that.
I love what I do. Do I miss the TV and the radio stuff a little bit? But like I said, now I'm kind of adjacent with that too. So I get to do a little bit of that while still having the stability of having health insurance.
It's a great benefit. It's a good thing to have. It's a good
It
thing to have.
really is.
Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your memories. I really do appreciate it. Although, slight bone to pick with you, I thought there'd at least be some mention of my back of the door memos, my weekly memos. I thought I'd at least get something out of you about that, but
Brian, I don't remember your back of the door memos. I'm so
I I
I guess I never really paid attention because I wasn't technically on the radio.
I actually have one. I saved most of them, and I think I have one that you wrote a note on or something like that. It was not
Mhm.
up to normal standards, and I should do better in the future. I've held on to those memories for 30 years. I just wanted to
Did
let you
I
know.
really write something like that?
I did. I'll find it. I'll find it. And I'll send it to you. It's pretty funny.
Please, please send it to me because that sounds like me, the bitchy, sarcastic person. When I first went to Hofstra in my freshman dorm, we were introducing ourselves. I just remember this, not radio related, but um, I was like, "Hi, my name's Allison." Blah blah blah. I'm like, this kind of sums me up, and it was a mug that said, "I bitch, therefore I am."
Wow.
So the fact that I was rude and sarcastic to you on a memo That sounds about right for me.
That's it's the memories that I treasure. It's really it's people being mean to me, which was all the time.
But you know what? You were so fun and you really took so much on your shoulders and did such a good job with it that,
Ah,
I mean, you really were a leader for us.
thank you for saying that, and you're
Oh,
back
you're
in my good
welcome.
graces. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
thank you. Phew, phew.
Well, this was so much fun. Thank you. It's lovely to hear some different perspectives and some stories, and it's really nice to hear from you.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you too. And I look forward to hearing from anybody who wants to reach out that, we were all a part of that group because at this point in my life, they are very fond memories.